Welcome to the vlog, or the episode. I don't even know which one this is, but where am I at? Well, I'm still here. I'm still playing on with the M1 Mac. So for those of you who think that I just give up, there's a couple of questions that people have raised in the comments, which I want to get to in a bit. Where are we at now? Well, I'm at a point now, basically, where, as you can see, I've been listening to John Syme, one of my favourite EDM artists, and I'm moving the trackpad, and it's just not responding. Now, I can't turn it up because it's stuck playing this song, but I seem to be able to do things with the keyboard. But I've noticed that this has happened a few times now, where the M1 will just lose connection with whatever you're using with it. So I have got some positive things that I found out about the M1 now that I've spent some time with it. So let's take another look at the M1. How am I doing with it? And we'll also dive into another really cool plugin that I've been looking at. Here we go. So you might have noticed I've got a little bit of a different setup with my studio at the moment. I've just tried plugging in a mouse into the Mac and it's made no difference. So I'm gonna have to force it off and on again. Let's see what happens. So literally I'm just powering down the Mac. Okay, so this is something you should never have to do, really. You should never have to force off the Mac. So we're just powering it back up, right? And yeah, just powering it up now. Let's see what happens. So it's back on. I've got no keyboard. Oh no, the keyboard's, it's very stuttery. Hang on. There we go. Actually, the Mac shouldn't be going to sleep, so it obviously crashed. Things have started to work again. It's coming back up. It's coming back to life. Let's have a look. The problem is now it's decided to start everything back up again, which I don't really want it to do. I want to have a look and see what's caused it to crash, so I can go into console on the Mac and have a look. So let me just have a look on here and see if I can find out what's doing this. Well, quite clearly I haven't been able to find out specifically what's causing the issue. I'll have to leave it there until I go through all this and figure out what's going on. But literally what seems to happen is occasionally, very randomly, the whole thing will just give up and stop communicating with various things like your mouse, your keyboard. I've had it happen a couple of times now. I can tell you that I managed to get most of the plugins that I wanted to work in Logic appearing now. I had to, so they don't, I've not seen this anywhere really. It took me a bit of playing about with it. I had to start Logic in Rosetta mode, get it to scan all the plugins, and then turn Logic's Rosetta mode back off. Now Rosetta is an emulation within Macs to try and make them behave more like the older Intel Macs, in terms of communicating through to the so you can run old Intel designed applications on the new M1 Mac. However, it comes at a performance cost, which I knew about and I was aware of. The reason I had it switched off though was because I believed that the plugins should automatically talk through a Rosetta layer if they needed to. I don't understand the ins and outs of it. And I'll say this to anybody who says, you should try this, you should try that. When you buy a Mac, you just want it to work. If you want to go down the route of tweaking and exploring the possibilities, you get yourself a Windows PC. I mean, I do a lot of IT for a living as well, and I can tell you right now that that if you're going to go down the Mac route, you don't want to be messing about much. You go down the Mac route because you want it to just work. And I use Macs for that purpose, because even though I do IT, when I'm doing my music, I don't want to be messing about. I want to be creating. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that. There are still issues with the M1 Mac. I think that if you still have a fairly newish Intel, stay away. They are not ready yet, and that's a big warning from me to anybody who thinks that I'm just having ignorant issues with the system. Unless you do not have one of these machines or a very up to date and current machine, then stay away. If you want to have any issues, then go this route. If you want to stick with your reasonably late-ish, say 2017, 18, 19 Intel Mac, I'd stick with it. I still swear by my Intel MacBook laptop. It's there because I need it occasionally for reliability still. The only reason I'm playing with the M1 is to get used to it and to see what it performs like. And I have to say, over the last few weeks of using it, although I'm moaning, I'm getting there with it. I'm learning its quirks. But I'm not happy. I would not switch fully, 100%. Maybe M3, I reckon, will be the time to do it. I still think even the M2, I mean, they're only just getting some of the latest plug-in companies to switch over to the M1 Mac now. Sound Toys have only just announced that they're testing. This is a year, well, not quite a year later, but it's coming up to a year. It'll be a year beginning of next year when the M1s were sort of being released. So I would say, if you think of it like that, that's quite some time. And that means that we're still kind of going to be beta testing the new M1 style software during the M2 stage. So I still can't see how M2 is going to be the point. Now, I will say this for anybody out there who's saying, I've seen all the reviews, I've seen how good these systems are. Yep, I completely agree. If you're a video editor, they are fantastic. They do perform very well for video editing. I have done some on here, but to be honest with you, although they're faster than my Intel, when I'm rendering one of my episodes on here, I tend to just press render and go off for a coffee for a while, So for me, it's not a big deal, but for somebody who's a pro video editor, that might be the solution for you. I wanted to show you quickly a plugin that I love using. It's one of my favorite compressors. It's one of the best ones that I think the Plugin Alliance do. I'm not saying that they don't do some great compressors, there's loads on there, but this is one of my favorite emulations they do. It's very close to the original as well, from what I've seen. Never used the original. It's like a £7,000 piece of hardware. So it's an incredibly expensive piece of kit. So to pick this up, and if you look in the Plugin Alliance sales, you will find this plugin, okay? It is a really, really good compressor. Now, I've only got some emulated drums playing on here, as you can hear. Now, what I've got going on here was more to take down the center channel using the mid-side mode here. And I wasn't really doing much here, but what you can do is you can adjust the mids and sides separately. So for anybody who doesn't know much about mid-side processing, this is where the central part of the entire mix is handled separately to the left and right side portion of the mix. So by doing this, you can use the plugin to effectively create, to handle the sides differently. And it means you get more control over the central image. If we just play it, and I'll just let it play. That's off. That's on. You can really hear how it carves it out. And one of the things that's a real benefit is being able to adjust these separately. I don't always do it like this, but I do like to play with it a bit like that. You have a threshold here, your attack and release, and your ratio. And the ratio on these things really does change in character as you go from 1.1 to 1.9. You can really make stuff pump with this plugin if that's what you want. I mean, obviously I've got it exaggerated here. I did use it quite expressively on a project recently, but this really does allow you to dial in some extreme compression sounds with a very simple plugin. You've also got down here the soft clip. Let me just show you this. What I'm going to do actually is just turn them in and just channel link them for now. Now, I turn the soft clip up there right to the top so you could hear exactly what it does. It literally crushes the mix as you push into it. But the beauty of it is that without being extreme, you can just push the mix out a little bit harder through this plugin. And this really is a master's kind of plugin. So this is something you'd chuck normally on the entire mix to pull it together, make it move, give it a bit of a different feel. There's a lot you can do with this plugin. If we just take a look at some of the ratios. So I've really pushed it there. I always think it's nice though to show a plugin pushed heavily. You can always blend it to your own taste anyway. But sometimes I find that some people who review plugins, they'll almost tickle the thing. And that's generally what you may end up doing with this plugin ultimately. But you need to hear, in my view, how a plugin's extremes work. When you really push it and then when you pull it right back and just use a dab of it on top of the mix. It's important to understand why you might want to use a lot of it and why you might not want to. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. You pick and choose here how you use these things. Don't let anybody say to you that there is a specific rule. There might be a way that is nicer to please more ears. But the truth is, if you don't push and experiment and create with these things, you'll never find out if there's something new and original and different out there. If you want everything to just sound the same all the time, follow and copy everybody out there. But I'll tell you one thing, nobody ever made a lot of success in music or being specifically a very recognizable producer because they copied. I mean, don't get me wrong, they might have done quite well for themselves, but they wouldn't have been necessarily somebody who had distinct sound qualities. If you look at a lot of the producers who've become quite famous and popular over the years, they have a distinct sound, a distinct way of mixing, whether it's somebody like Chris Lord-Alge or whether it's somebody like I'm just trying to think of somebody else, Andrew Sheps, for example. They all have their own styles. There's plenty of professional producers and mixers that you can watch on the internet. And there's a lot of new and upcoming people as well talking about it. I might not have to my name like massive hits or anything like that. But if I was to sit here and just copy everybody, don't get me wrong, I learn. I look at what I do and I learn from everybody else. But you've got to try and find a way to do something that's unique. And if you can do that, you'll probably end up ending up with something being much more of an impact within the industry. And even if you don't quite craft the radio perfect sound, maybe just your individual uniqueness will then get brushed up by some other mastering engineer if you ever need it, who will come along and just sweeten it up for you, and you'll have created something different and very unique. with all these tools. We have access to all the stuff that they had. Now, it might not be the same, but believe me, it doesn't really matter what the original stuff sounded like. The most important thing is that you've got pretty much the tools that they always had. They just sound a little different. So I hope that was interesting, taking a look at the plugin. My positiveness, negativeness of using the M1 is still ongoing. Still using it. That's what I've been using to do this one now with. I'm now screen recording with it and doing everything with it. So I hope I'm showing you that the M1 is usable. It's just not a replacement still for the Intel. And on top of that, if you like looking at the plugins I'm doing, every week I'm going to try and at least do one plugin that I think is worthy of looking at. There's other stuff that I've been looking at recently as well. I took out a trial of the Antares Auto-Tune to see just quite how good it is compared to some of the other cheaper, free, included in Logic versions are out there. I'm still experimenting with it, and I'm hoping to do a video on that at some point in the future as well. So hopefully this is useful to you. I just wanted to say that some comments and questions about the M1. I hope I'm answering your questions regarding the M1. I know that people have been asking me if they think it's worth holding off. I think somebody mentioned in one of the comments that he has a 2013 Mac. It might be worth upgrading to the M1 if you're coming from something as old as that. There are bugs, there are problems, but I think they'll be ironed out in time. You might want to hold off to the M2 though. If you're thinking of, whether or not you need this for serious professional work or whether you're okay with just using it as a hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist, you can probably get away with it, to be honest. If it's professional, I'd watch out. There's some caveats. You can pull it off. I've managed to. But it's not as smooth and plain sailing as it seems to be from some of the reviews I've heard online. So yeah, I'm glad. If anybody's got any more questions about any of these plugins, please just feel free to chuck any messages down below. Like I said, these Plugin Alliance ones, you can trial them all out on their website. I'm not sponsored by anyone by any means. I just use these ones, and I think that compared to something like Waves, which are a complete rip-off these days with their whole WAP thing that's going on, and the cost of having to upgrade your plugins with them every year is just a complete waste of time. I'd have a look at Plugin Alliance. They've got pretty looking plugins, and they've got far more character to them than some of the Waves ones. That combined with some stock plugins within the actual system itself, in Logic, for example, and then some stuff like the virtual instruments, that'll get you where you need to go. Anyway, I will catch you next weekend. Things are going to get a little bit more exciting over winter period. Hopefully some trips out again at some point, but for now I'm just going to carry on and crack through some of these videos and show you some of the stuff I use. So take care, and I'll catch you later.